Buenos dias from the lovely El Centro, California. So I got here last night. Of course, it had to be nighttime. Well, evening, because it was still 6. And I actually got into a shelter, which is awesome. For those of you who weren't keeping track, that was not a thing that could happen in Tucson. And that's the thing about small towns. Smaller towns do things like shelters better. Like Flagstaff had a way better facility. Well, I mean, the facility in Flagstaff was iffy, and the staff was definitely iffy, depending on who you talk to, and some of them were just iffy right off the bat. But here it's like I got into a domestic violence shelter, and domestic violence shelters are always just going to be nicer, like by default. And I waited until I was a few blocks away to start recording. I'm not trying to blow the place up, trust me. And I've been in a partial domestic violence shelter before, and that shelter was also really nice. It was the shelter that I was in, Barrett House in Albuquerque, New Mexico. But this is like full domestic violence shelter, and I got in because I have domestic violence in my history. Yeah, it could definitely use some help. It's in a house, and unfortunately they don't own the house that they put the shelter in, and that comes with its own set of issues, just like with any landlord situation. But overall, the shelter is really fucking nice. First of all, it's in a house, and you can come and go as you please for the most part. Curfew is 6:30, but you don't have to leave. And there are so few shelters that you don't have to leave. Just generally speaking, but for domestic violence shelters, I don't know. I think for a domestic violence shelter, at the one that I stayed that was partial domestic violence, it was kind of iffy on whether or not people had to leave. But that's a house, and there's no 24/7 staff. So it's just like a house where people, yeah, you don't have, but you have to be back at a certain time if you do leave. Yeah, definitely more shelters need to do that. And then there's rules that it's kind of you can't, the staff can't enforce the rules if they aren't there, and it's they're not even important. It's great. It's a very flexible situation. The only thing that you absolutely have to do that they can enforce is curfew. Everything else, it's they even try to have times in which you eat and shit, and they have a dress code, and it's okay, well, how are you gonna enforce that when you're not there? So yeah. But yeah, so I'm enjoying this lovely sun. This is just beautiful. And on the way here, I saw a New Mexico license plate in Arizona, and I was like, yeah, I'm not going far. But right now I'm walking to City Hall because El Centro is a small fucking town in Southern California, not far from Mexico, where you have to do shit with cash. And this is my biggest hang up about small towns. As much as there are some things that they do right that major cities could definitely stand to learn from, they're very low tech. And I am the average millennial that does not carry cash. So I have to go to one of 3 fucking locations, with City Hall being a good bit of walk away from where I am, to go buy the fucking bus passes with my card. And I can't get bus passes from the shelter because the lady like who picked up the phone was even shocked that I asked for bus passes, even though the person last night told me that they have bus passes available because people need to get around town. And I'm like, the fact that she was like, nah, we're a domestic violence shelter, we don't do that here. I was like, ma'am, I know you're a domestic violence shelter. I'm staying there. Why is it shocking to you that a resident at your shelter or a guest at your shelter is asking for bus passes? Especially when the other person that works there was so forthcoming about it. But like, that's that small town shit. I want to be able to pay for my fucking bus pass with my card or through an app and move on with my life. Which, like, not all small towns, right? Because Flagstaff does have an app where you can pay for it, or you can pay for it in person, or you can pay cash. But really, I liked using the app while I was there, because if you use the app to buy bus passes, depending on how many of them you buy, they upgrade you, and they don't charge you for the upgrade, which is fucking rad to me. But I'm not watching where I'm going. I'm just walking at this point. But I'm glad that I got into a shelter, because last night would have been rough otherwise. So when I called the first people, they were like, we don't have any beds available, but here's who might. And didn't explain to me that it was a domestic violence shelter. But I called and I got in. And they said, what'd she say? She said, our shelter, the shelter that I'm staying in, and the other shelter. And the other shelter is the Salvation Army. So, yeah, there's definitely an attitude in this region towards the Salvation Army, because they're not doing what the fuck they're supposed to be doing. Salvation Army is a scam. And, like, now we've gotten to the point where people don't even want to fucking talk about the Salvation Army. Like, forget those bitches exist. Give your money to local stuff that helps unhoused people. And give your money to unhoused people directly. Because not everybody wants to be in a shelter, because shelters have a lot of rules. And honestly, it really, like, not dehumanizes homeless people. Sometimes it is dehumanizing, depending on the shelter and depending on the rules. But a lot of times it's just, what is it called, infanticizing? It's just like, and it's not just about curfew, it's about what you can. Some shelters have dress codes. It's about what you can and can't wear. Some shelters don't allow pets under any circumstances, including service animals. Some shelters don't allow children. A lot of shelters are most notorious for separating families, furry family members included. And it's just, shelters can be very awful. 9 times out of 10, shelters are very awful. So give your money directly to homeless people. And so what if they spend it on drugs? That's what you were going to do. Stop judging homeless people. You're part of the problem if you think that homeless people shouldn't have drugs when you know that's what you're going to go get. What else? There's a lot. I got good sleep last night. I'm forgetting shit. Oh yeah, or I guess I can make that a different video. Right now I want to talk about this. But yeah, good times. I'm just gonna leave it there.